In 1866, Liechtenstein sent 80 soldiers to fight in a war. They came back with 81. Somewhere along the way, they had made a friend. The country looked at this outcome, concluded that maintaining a military was expensive, pointless, and apparently socially awkward, and disbanded it entirely. That was 1868. They have not had one since. Farlamp. The country that made that decision is 25 kilometers long. You could drive it end to end in half an hour. You'd pass through a handful of towns that look, to anyone unfamiliar, like any well-maintained alpine village. Mountain backdrop, church spire, a bakery, tended gardens. There is no airport. The capital, Vaduz, has no train station. If you crossed the border from Switzerland without knowing where you were, you might not notice for a while. No gate, no checkpoint. The road continues, and at some point, without ceremony, you are somewhere else. That quietness is not an accident, and it is not the whole story. Look up from those streets, and there is a castle on the hill above the town. It is not a ruin, not a museum. Someone lives there, has lived there for generations, and from those windows, you can see almost everything there is to see in this country. The man in that castle can dissolve the government, veto any law Parliament passes, and his family holds personal wealth estimated to exceed the country's entire annual budget. In 2003, when the citizens had the chance to vote on whether he should have more authority or less, they chose more. He watched a transformation happen from that window that most economists would say should not have been possible. Here is the thing about Liechtenstein that the surface does not tell you. By GDP per capita, the measure of how much economic value a country produces per person, Liechtenstein generates roughly $210,000 per resident, per year. That is more than twice what the United States produces per person, more than Switzerland, more than any country in the European Union. 40,000 people, one of the wealthiest economies on Earth per capita. On paper, nothing about this place should produce that number. It is landlocked. No coastline, no port, no access to sea trade. It has no oil, no gas, no significant natural resources. It is smaller than the city of San Francisco. For most of its history, it was too poor to sustain its own population. So how? The answer starts with a decision made after the Second World War, at a moment when the country had almost nothing left to lose. Liechtenstein in the 1930s and 40s was a country people left. Generation after generation had emigrated, mostly to America, because the land here could not support what they needed. The royal family was quietly liquidating assets to stay solvent. The future of the principality as an independent state was not guaranteed. What happened next was not a miracle. It was a choice. The government made taxes extraordinarily low. Corporate tax, the rate businesses pay on their profits, was set at around 12.5%. For comparison, at the time, most European countries were taxing businesses at rates 2 or 3 times higher. For a company looking to establish a headquarters, Liechtenstein became one of the most financially attractive options on the continent. But low taxes alone do not build an economy. What they did was buy time and attract capital. What the people here did with that time was start making things. Not flashy things, not things with their names on them. The things Liechtenstein decided to make were the components inside other things. The parts that hold the world together, literally and functionally, that nobody thinks about until they stop working. Hilti, headquartered in Schaan, a town of 6,000 people a few minutes from that church spire, manufactures the high-performance drills, anchors, and fastening systems used on construction sites in over 120 countries. When a skyscraper goes up in Dubai, when a hospital is built in Sao Paulo, when infrastructure is laid across Southeast Asia, there is a reasonable chance the tools cutting through that concrete came from a valley most of the workers have never heard of. Hilti now employs 34,000 people worldwide and generates over 6 billion Swiss francs in annual revenue. One company in a country of 40,000. Then there is the dental side, and this is the one that tends to stop people. Ivoclar Vivadent, founded in 1923 and based here since 1933, is one of the world's largest producers of dental prosthetics. Crowns, implants, artificial teeth, the kind a dentist fits when a patient can no longer keep their own. The company supplies products to dentists and clinics across more than 100 countries. A meaningful portion of the replacement teeth in people's mouths right now, people who have never thought once about Liechtenstein, were designed and produced in this alpine valley. And then there is the other engine. Beyond manufacturing, Liechtenstein developed into one of Europe's most important private banking and financial centers. The combination of political stability, strong privacy laws, and low taxes made it attractive to wealth from across the world. Today, Liechtenstein has more companies registered within its borders than it has citizens. More than 38,000 registered businesses in a country of 40,000 people. Roughly one company per resident. Most of those companies are not offices with staff. They are holding companies, foundations, and registered entities created by individuals and corporations to manage wealth here. It is, quietly, one of the most concentrated financial addresses on Earth. Two completely separate engines. One making physical things the world depends on, one managing money the world has accumulated, running simultaneously in 25 kilometers of Alpine Valley. Every morning, you can see the consequences of all this at the border crossings. Cars queue in the dark before sunrise. Workers arrive from Austria, Switzerland, Germany, crossing a border to get to their jobs, then crossing another to go home.
Liechtenstein generates over 43,000 jobs for a population of 40,000. More people come here to work each day than wake up here. Half the daily workforce sleeps somewhere else. It is a country that people choose to return to every morning. Not to live, to build things in. Back to the castle on the hill. The man who can dissolve the government and whose family is personally wealthier than the nation he rules, he watched all of this develop beneath those windows. A country that was losing its people became one that imports its workers every morning. A country that was selling royal assets in the 1930s became one of the wealthiest per capita on Earth within a single human lifetime. The castle has not moved. The valley is the same valley. What changed was a decision made by the people below about what this place was going to do with what it had. From those windows, on a clear day, you can see almost all of it at once. It fits inside a single view.